It was late afternoon, the sun hanging low and casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and twist in unnatural ways among the ancient oaks lining the path. I sat in the passenger seat, fingers tightening around the worn leather strap of my bag, my eyes fixed on the looming silhouette ahead. The manor itself, it stood resolute yet decayed, like a forgotten relic, resisting the encroachment of time. Its stone walls bore the patina of 100 years, cracked and mottled, stained by centuries of rain and neglect. The windows, tall and narrow, stared blankly like dark eyes, some broken, others clouded with grime, reflecting the dying light. Behind me, the team murmured in quiet excitement and nerves. Maya was already fiddling with her camera, her brows furrowed in concentration. Jonas glanced warily around, hands never far from his jacket pockets where his small collection of tools and protective gear rested. Leela sat cross-legged amidst piles of cables and boxes, sketchpad in hand, her pale face illuminated by the screen of her tablet. Dr. Evelyn Marks, our scientific advisor and historian, sat primly, clipboard balanced on her knees, glasses perched low on her nose. Samir, our junior equipment manager, fidgeted with a tangle of wires, his baseball cap pulled low. "Here we are," I said quietly, stepping out and inhaling the chill that seemed to seep from the manor's walls themselves. The air was thick with the scent of damp wood, mold, and something indefinably old, the smell of forgotten memories. I felt the weight of the moment settle on my shoulders. This was not just another investigation. For me, it was personal. I had come here to find answers, to confront the unknown that had haunted me since the death of my sister. A puzzle of grief and unanswered questions that had driven me from the sterile halls of psychology clinics to the shadowed realms of the paranormal. The manor, infamous in local lore, whispered promises of truths hidden in its shifting corridors. We crossed the threshold into the grand foyer, the heavy door groaning in protest. Dust motes floated in the shafts of our flashlights, revealing faded grandeur beneath layers of decay. Ornate wallpaper peeled from the walls in curling strips. Chandeliers hung askew, their crystals dulled and broken. The floorboards creaked beneath our boots, a chorus of groans from the house itself. Somewhere in the depths, the faint drip of water echoed. "Set up here," I instructed, gesturing toward the center of the room, where the remnants of a once majestic rug lay mottled and threadbare. Maya began, unpacking her array of devices, EMF meters, digital recorders, infrared cameras, each piece humming with promise. Jonas moved to secure the perimeter, checking windows and doors with a sharp eye. Lila hovered near a cracked mirror, her fingers tracing its surface as if seeking to draw out the unseen. Dr. Marks busied herself, with notes on the manor's documented history, her skepticism a steady undercurrent against our mounting anticipation. Samir handled the cabling with nervous efficiency. As we worked, I felt a subtle shift, a barely perceptible change in the angles of the room, a doorway that seemed to narrow just beyond my peripheral vision. I blinked, and it was gone. I caught Maya's glance. She was frowning, fingers poised over a camera lens, but no one else seemed to notice. "Did you feel that?" I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. "Feel what?" Maya asked, lowering the camera. "Like the room, breathing." I hesitated, the words tasting strange on my tongue. Lila shivered, pulling her cardigan tighter around her slender frame. "There's something here," she said softly, eyes distant. "Something watching." "Don't let the atmosphere get to you," Jonas grunted, voice low but firm. "We're here to investigate, not to get spooked." Dr. Marks interjected, adjusting her glasses. "Remember, this place has been empty for decades." What you're experiencing are the echoes of natural decay, nothing more. I wanted to believe her, clung to her rationality as an anchor. But deep down, a part of me knew this house was different, unnatural, alive in a way that defied explanation. Night fell swiftly, swallowing the last hues of dusk. The manor's shadows grew long and thick, pooling in corners and stretching down endless hallways. The wind picked up outside, rattling broken shutters and stirring dead leaves against the stone steps. Inside, the silence deepened, punctuated only by creaks and sighs from the settling house. We gathered around a small table, lit by a flickering lantern. I opened my journal, pen poised. Writing was my way of keeping the creeping dread at bay, of capturing reality before it slipped beyond reach. "We start tomorrow," I said quietly. "Document everything. Trust your instincts." As I wrote, my gaze drifted to a hallway opposite the foyer, impossibly long, stretching into darkness. For a moment, I swore I saw the walls pulse, edges blurring like smoke. Then they were still. The house had begun its work, and we were already inside its grasp. The night deepened, and with it, the sense that this was only the beginning of something far darker than any of us could imagine. The heavy wooden door groaned on its hinges, protesting our intrusion into a realm long abandoned, yet somehow unmistakably alive. Dust motes floated in the stale air, catching the last rays of daylight as if suspended in a fragile limbo. I tightened my grip on the journal in my backpack, a silent talisman against the unknown. "Let's get the equipment set up before night falls," I said, trying to steady my voice despite the nervous flutter in my chest. Around me, the team busied themselves unpacking cameras, EMF readers, and voice recorders, their movements brisk but tinged with a tension that was impossible to mask. Maya crouched near the grand staircase, her short black hair catching the light as she calibrated her devices. "This place is a tech nightmare," she muttered, scanning the peeling wallpaper and cracked banisters. "But the readings so far are interesting." Leela lingered near a cracked window, her pale face serene yet shadowed by something deeper. "I can feel it," she whispered, eyes closed. "Something here is heavy, sad." Dr. Evelyn Marks adjusted her glasses, her expression unreadable. "Emotional resonance is hardly scientific evidence," she countered, her tone measured but firm. "We need to focus on tangible data, not feelings." Jonas and Samir secured the perimeter, their eyes sharp and alert. Jonas's broad frame seemed to absorb the oppressive atmosphere, his jaw clenched in silent vigilance. We began our initial sweep of the manor's main hall and adjoining rooms, the floorboards creaking beneath our feet like whispered warnings. At first, the house seemed merely dilapidated, a relic of forgotten grandeur. But as we moved deeper, subtle oddities emerged. A door that hadn't been on the blueprints, a corridor that seemed longer than memory suggested, shadows that shifted at the edges of vision. Maya's EMF reader suddenly buzzed with alarming intensity in a narrow hallway lined with faded portraits. "Look at this," she said, holding up the device. The needles quivered wildly, the sound sharp and unrelenting. "I've never seen anything like it." I stepped closer, examining the peeling wallpaper and cracked plaster. The air felt charged, a static tension humming beneath the surface. Leela's hand trembled as she reached out, fingertips grazing the wall. "It's as if the house is breathing," she murmured. Dr. Marks frowned, clearly unconvinced. "Electromagnetic fluctuations can be caused by faulty wiring or hidden metal structures," she said. "This manor has been neglected for decades. There's bound to be interference." But I saw the way her eyes flicked to the door at the end of the corridor, one that none of us had noticed before. It was heavy and ornate, its dark wood warped by age, the iron handle cold and unyielding. I approached it cautiously, the hairs on the back of my neck rising. "When did this door appear?" I asked, voice low. No one had an answer. We all instinctively knew it had not been there moments ago. The room beyond was sealed tight, the faintest whisper of cold air slipping through the cracks. Lila shivered, her breath shallow. "There's something behind this door," she said, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. "Something watching." Jonas moved forward, hand on the butt of his pistol, scanning the shadows. "We need to keep moving," he urged. "We can't let this place get inside our heads." The rest of the team nodded, though unease curled in everyone's stomach. We pressed on, but the manor's subtle manipulations grew harder to ignore. Corridors shifted when we weren't looking. Familiar landmarks disappeared or morphed into something unfamiliar. The boundaries of the house seemed to blur, as if reality itself were bending to some inscrutable will. That night, as we gathered in the main hall to review our findings, the atmosphere was thick with unspoken fears. Maya pored over her equipment, Leela sat quietly sketching the door that had appeared, and Dr. Marks argued quietly with Jonas about the likelihood of natural explanations. I sat apart, journal open on my lap, fingers tracing the words I had written earlier. Something was happening here, something beyond logic or science. The house was alive, watching us, reshaping itself like a living nightmare, and we had only just begun to unravel its secrets. As the flames of the fireplace flickered, casting long shadows that danced on the cracked walls, I realized this was no ordinary investigation. The manor was a puzzle, a predator, and we were its unwitting prey. The creeping dread settled over me like a second skin, and I knew that the horrors to come would test every ounce of our sanity and resolve. But for now, the first signs were subtle, almost polite. A door where there was none, a whisper in the silence, a presence felt but unseen. The house was waking, and we were trapped inside its dream. Every step echoed strangely, as if the very ground beneath us was uncertain. I led the team cautiously through a narrow corridor that just moments before had ended in a dead end. Now, a door stood where none should be, its wood swollen and twisting like the limbs of some gnarled tree. My heart pounded in my chest, not simply from the physical exertion, but from the flood of memories that began to stir with terrifying clarity. The laughter of my sister Light, carefree and achingly familiar, echoed through the halls, distant yet unmistakable. It was a sound I had not heard in years, yet here it was, woven into the very fabric of this place. My vision blurred, and suddenly I was no longer in the manor, but back in the room where I last saw her alive. The sterile hospital lights flickered overhead as I tried to reach out to her, but the moment shattered like glass. I gasped, grounding myself against the wall, the cold wood pressing into my palm, a sharp contrast to the warmth of the memory. Jonas was not far behind, his imposing frame casting long shadows in the dim light. He moved with a wary grace, eyes scanning every corner, every shifting seam in the architecture. His jaw clenched tight, and his breaths came in measured bursts. I caught the tightening of his fists, the subtle twitch of his fingers near the holster at his side. Protective as ever, his presence was both a comfort and a warning that the house was becoming more hostile by the minute. Maya crouched near a scattering of our technical gear, her dark eyes darting between the flickering EMF meter and the erratic readings on her tablet. "This shouldn't be happening," she muttered, voice low and edged with frustration. "The sensors are picking up fluctuations that don't align with any known phenomenon. It's like the house is rewriting the rules as we go along." Her skepticism was a pillar for the team, but even she seemed rattled now. I noticed the tightness around her mouth, the way her fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted the dials. Leela sat cross-legged on the cold floor, clutching her sketchbook as if it were a lifeline. Her pale complexion was flushed, and beads of sweat dotted her forehead. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, and every so often she would whisper words I couldn't quite catch, as though speaking to unseen entities. Her drawings, though rough, depicted scenes of sorrow and despair, figures twisted in anguish, spectral forms reaching out from darkened doorways. "The house is showing me things," she said quietly, voice trembling. "Things that happened here long ago. It's like it wants us to understand, or maybe to suffer." Dr. Evelyn Marks, ever the skeptic, hovered near the doorway, arms crossed and eyes sharp behind her glasses. "Remember," she said firmly, "we must remain grounded in reality. These could all be manifestations of stress, suggestion, or group hysteria." But even her voice lacked conviction. Samir fidgeted beside her, his youthful energy dimmed by the thickening atmosphere. "I don't like this," he confessed, voice barely above a whisper. "It's like the house knows what we're afraid of." I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of that truth settle over us. The manor was no longer just a building. It was a living entity, an ancient predator feeding on our memories and fears. Every twist in the hall, every warped corner, was designed to unravel us. As I steadied myself against the wall, the image of my sister's face burned into my mind, her eyes wide with terror, the fading light behind her as she slipped away. I knew that the house was reaching deeper, pulling at the threads of my past. "We need to keep moving," I commanded, voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "If we let it trap us in our memories, we'll never find a way out." Jonas nodded sharply, stepping forward with renewed resolve. Maya packed up her equipment swiftly, her skepticism giving way to grim acceptance. Leela rose unsteadily, clutching her sketches like sacred texts. Together, we ventured further into the manor's shifting maze, each corridor a mirror reflecting our fears back at us. The walls closed in, but our will to survive pressed outward, and deep within the manor's heart, the house waited patiently, sensing the stirrings of its praise, unraveling sanity. The night was far from over, and the memories it stirred promised no rest. But tonight, the house seemed to twist reality itself, folding corridors back upon one another in ways that defied any logical mapping. It was as if the walls breathed, inhaling and exhaling, reshaping the very space around us when we weren't looking. We had just left the main hall, a place that once must have been grand, but now lay draped in peeling wallpaper and shadow. Maya was fiddling with her handheld electromagnetic reader, her brow furrowed in concentration. Jonas moved ahead, his imposing figure a constant sentinel against whatever might lurk in the darkness. Lila trailed behind, her steps hesitant, eyes distant, and behind us, Dr. Evelyn Marks voiced her skepticism in that clipped tone she always adopted when confronted with the inexplicable. "This is just an old house playing tricks on our senses," she said, her voice echoing faintly against the warped walls. "The mind fills in the gaps. We've been here too long." But I couldn't shake the feeling that the house was alive, watching us, weaving a web of distorted memories and impossible geometry. We turned a corner, and I realized we were back where we started. The ornate molding on the ceiling seemed to ripple, like water disturbed by a stone. A door appeared where there had been none before, its wood swollen and cracked, yet somehow inviting. Lila sank to the floor in a small side room, bathed in the sickly light of a flickering bulb. Her eyes closed, her breath shallow and rapid. Around her, the air shimmered with translucent images, ghostly scenes of sorrow and violence. She sketched furiously, fingers stained with charcoal, capturing the moments her mind conjured from the house's depths. "Their memories," she whispered, voice trembling. "The house shows me what it's lived through." Jonas's patience snapped as he slammed his fist against a wall, the sound muffled by the thickening atmosphere. "We can't keep wandering in circles," he growled, eyes darting nervously. "This place is messing with us. We need a plan." Maya's instruments sputtered, lights flickering erratically. "The readings are off the charts," she said, voice edged with disbelief. "There's something here, something unnatural." Dr. Marks adjusted her glasses, glancing warily at the twisting hallway outside the warped window that pulsed faintly, almost like a breathing eye. "I don't know what to make of this," she admitted, voice low, "but it's beyond anything I've encountered in my research." The tension between us thickened, the air growing heavy with unspoken fears. Paranoia crept into the corners of my mind, whispering that the house wasn't just warping space, it was warping us. Our memories, our perceptions, even our trust in one another. As night deepened, the manor's grip tightened. The line between waking and dreaming slipped away, leaving only the fracturing reality of the house's endless, shifting nightmare. We were trapped, not only by walls and doors, but by the very fabric of our own minds, unraveling beneath the house's merciless gaze. I closed my eyes, trying to anchor myself in what I knew to be real. But even then, I wondered if the house had already rewritten my memories, twisting them into the shape of its dark, insatiable hunger. Our first order of business that morning was clear: to map this twisting, shifting place in any way we could. If the house was changing beneath our feet, we needed a record, a baseline to anchor ourselves against the madness. I sat at a rickety desk in one of the manor's many forgotten studies, my journal open before me. The pages, once crisp, were now dog-eared and stained with smudges of dust and damp. I had been meticulous, recording every detail, every sensation, every strange occurrence since our arrival. But today, as I reread my entries, a cold knot formed in my stomach. Words I was certain I'd never written stared back at me in ink. Cryptic phrases twisted into dark omens, sentences that warped the meaning of my own thoughts. "Elliot," Maya called from across the room, her voice tight with disbelief. She was hunched over her laptop, headphones pressed against her ears. I rose and crossed the cluttered space, the floorboards creaking beneath my boots. "Listen to this," she said, eyes wide, fingers trembling as she replayed her latest recording. The room filled with a static-laden hum, but beneath it, whispers slithered through the noise, faint, indecipherable murmurs that had no place in the natural world. "What is that?" I asked, leaning in. "I don't know," she admitted. "It wasn't there when I recorded it earlier. The equipment was fine." And then this showed up. Jonas stepped into the room, his usual stoic expression creased with concern. "This place is playing tricks on us," he muttered. "I don't like it." We gathered around the large map spread on the floor, our best attempt to chart the manor's sprawling wings. Yet when we compared it to our earlier sketches, the layout seemed to shift before our eyes. Hallways we'd mapped yesterday had vanished, replaced by unfamiliar doorways leading into darkness. The manor was rewriting itself, erasing our progress and isolating us further. "It's like the house is alive," Lila whispered, her fingers tracing the faded lines as if seeking to hold the shifting architecture steady. Dr. Marks, ever the skeptic, frowned. There must be a rational explanation, perhaps structural collapse or our own disorientation. But even she could not hide the tremor in her voice. Samir, usually eager to assist, looked pale as he fiddled nervously with his equipment. I'm not sure this is just disorientation anymore, he said, glancing over his shoulder. As the day wore on, the manor's influence tightened its grip. I returned reluctantly to my journal, desperate to find some consistency amid the chaos. But each time I read, the words shifted, the narrative twisting into something dark and unknowable. The house was not merely haunting. Usit was rewriting us. We can't trust our memories, I muttered, voice barely audible. Or our recordings. Maya nodded grimly. And if we can't trust our tools, how do we fight back? The oppressive silence of the manor pressed in around us, broken only by the faint creak of settling wood and the distant drip of water. The house's unseen presence loomed, a predator stalking the edges of our sanity. As night fell, I sat alone in the study, the journal open on my lap. The once familiar words blurred and shifted beneath my gaze. Somewhere in the darkness beyond the windows, the manor waited, patient and hungry, reshaping itself, and us with every passing moment. And I could not help but wonder if even our memories were not safe here. What chance did we have to escape? The manor's walls whispered promises and threats alike, and I was left clutching at the fragile thread of reality, desperately trying to hold on before the house swallowed me whole. The night stretched long and merciless, the shifting shadows dancing just beyond the candlelight. Outside, the wind whispered secrets through the broken panes, and inside, the house dreamed, ever watching, ever waiting. I closed the journal, the words now settling into a terrifying new form. Tomorrow, we would try again. But deep inside, I feared we were already lost. The unseen changes had begun, and with them, the true nightmare was just awakening.